Hey guys, it's Miss Leone here, and today we're going to be learning how to create value scales using gradation. So this assignment has 3 parts. We're going to be creating a value scale that has 3 values. We're going to be creating a value scale that has 5 values, and then we're going to be creating a value scale that has 7 values. So the materials that you're going to need for today are a ruler or a hard edge, a pencil, and just to have nearby an eraser and a sharpener in case we need them. All right, so let's begin. So the first step is we're going to be naming our paper. So let me just put the ruler over here for a moment. I'm going to be naming it value scales using gradation. Okay. So we're going to be using the gradation shading technique. We're going to be using the side of the pencil, which is called the overhand grip. And then you're going to write your name on this side of the paper. All right, so let me just underline that. We're ready to begin. So the first one, to create the value scale box, we're going to be using our ruler. So when you're using your ruler, a few things to look at is we want to start at the edge. You can see at the edge, this is where the 1 starts, and we're going to be going up into the 5, and I've drawn a line just so you guys can really see how that goes. So I'm going to be making it as straight as I can on my paper, and I'm going to be starting at the 5, drawing across horizontally. Then I'm going to follow the edge of the ruler, and then I'm going to draw back horizontally. So there you go. So now you just close it off. Again, try to keep the ruler as straight as you can. A trick that I like to use is I line up the bottom of the ruler with the bottom of the paper. So we know that it's horizontal, it's straight. So if you go like that, you can see that it's not really level with the edge of the paper. So then you can adjust it. So this is a good way of making straight vertical lines. So we're just going to close off that shape. So we're just going to go ahead and set ourselves up so that way we can start filling it in at the same time. So the second step to setting up our paper, this is number 2. Again, we're going to be making a rectangle that is 5 inches wide, about 1 inch tall, but it's going to just be the shape of whatever your ruler is. Just make our lives much easier. So again, starting at the 5, going across, go down the edge of the ruler, and then back across. So if you don't have a ruler, any straight edge will do. You can use like the side of a notebook if you want to rip a folder, cut a folder sheet, but you do need a hard edge to do this with because we want to make it neat. And then I'm just going to go, and actually since I line them up with each other, I can just use the line above, boom. So now we have 2 rectangles that are 5 inches wide. And then finally for our third one, we are going to make a rectangle that is 7 inches because we want the sections to be 1 inch each. So I'm going to go here. I have outlined, I extended the line here for the 7-inch mark. So I'm going to try to, and I'm trying to keep these 3 lining up with each other to the best of my ability. Okay. So I'm going to start at the 7 this time, going across, going down, back across. I'm stopping at the 7 mark. Boom. And you just close that up. All right, so now that is step 1 for setting up this paper. You can see that you have 3 rectangles. 2 of them are 5 inches wide. 1 of them is 7 inches. And I just used, again, the shape of the ruler to help guide me. Your ruler might be fatter. It's okay if they come out a little fatter. Okay, so now to finish setting this up, the first one is going to be 3 scales. So it's kind of hard to split 5 inches into 3 perfectly even. So let me just move these things out of the way. So I'm just going to round about, I would say about maybe, you know, 1.5 inches, give or take from each direction is fine. Maybe about there and there. At this point, you can eye it. It's okay. You just don't want to have one that's like this little and then a really big one. Just more or less try to make them even. So the first box, we're splitting it up into 3 sections, okay? And then we're gonna label this light, medium, dark. LMD for light, medium, dark, and then on top you can put 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now to set up the second one, now this one is gonna be 5 values, so we're gonna split it up using the inch marks. So I'm gonna be lining up my ruler here to the best of your ability, and I'm gonna make a little mark at the 1, at the 2, at the 3, and at the 4. So that gives me the ability of just now, I'm gonna again line up my ruler with the bottom of the paper. And I always have a few sheets of paper when I'm drawing on a hard surface. I find that drawing like on a desk, the desk can be a little like rough underneath, like hard under the paper. So I always like having like an extra sheet of paper or 2 underneath. Or if you're doing this in your sketchbook, that's fine. You'll have paper underneath. So then I just connected at the lines that I measured, and I just made 5 sections. They're about 1 by 1 inch. So now the first box is light, the middle box is medium, and the final box is dark. And then we're gonna write 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're gonna go ahead and measure this final one into 7 sections. So again, I'm starting my ruler over here at the edge. You can see it's lining up 7 inches. So I'm gonna make a mark at the 1, at the 2, at the 3, at the 4, at the 5, and at the 6. And then from there, I'm just gonna be, again, connecting my lines to close the shape. So you're noticing that I'm not drawing fully through across the whole page. That one came a little crooked, but that's okay, to the best of your ability, because I didn't line it up as well with the bottom of my paper. And you can see that it's kind of lining up with the box above it, the way that I started them all kind of starting on the same point of the paper. Okay, almost done here. All right, so now we are ready to start shading. So this is how your box should look, okay? So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then box 1 is light, box 4 is medium, and box 7 is dark. So that is what your page should be looking like. And now we are ready to shade. So now we're gonna start adding values to our value scales. And remember, we're using gradation, so a few things. So the first thing you always wanna do, I always have an extra piece of paper on the side to make sure, because sometimes when you sharpen your pencils, they get a little jagged, right? Because it's crisp from the sharpener, so we wanna smoothen that out. So to use the gradation shading technique, we're using the overhand grip. So again, put the pencil down. You're gonna make sure that the side that has the most lead showing is facing down. All right, so that's facing down, and then you're gonna pinch it, pick it up, and then you're gonna practice, just gonna go like this a little bit, because sometimes when you sharpen it, you can swirl it around a little bit. You just wanna make sure that you're gonna be getting like a smooth mark, that there's no like straggly edges. And here I think I have a piece of crumb. I did, so I got a little mark there. So again, remember, we're not using the point. We just use the point to draw the scales with the ruler, and now we're gonna be using the side to fill them in. So that's the idea here. We wanna have an eraser on hand to clean up edges. So again, we're using the side. All right, so let's start. All right, so in a value scale, so a value scale is used by artists to show different ranges from light to dark, from white to black. And this helps artists to have the most value as possible in their work. And that's what's gonna help your work have a sense of realism or a sense of 3-dimension, volume in the values, okay? So this is really gonna help your art become more interesting by having the different values. So the first box, that's supposed to be white. So we're gonna leave box 1 empty. The white of the paper is the lightest value, so we're never gonna shade in any of these. So now we're gonna jump to box 3 because that's the darkest one, and that's the one that's gonna be almost black. It might not be black because our pencils, you know, this is not a black color pencil, but however, we wanna make it as dark as possible. So to begin that, we're gonna be, again, using the overhand grip, sideways, right? You can put your finger here to make sure you have steady pressure, and we're gonna be using a lot of heavy pressure with the pencil and even horizontal or vertical strokes completely across the box. So it should be almost black or the deepest, darkest you can get with the pencil. And you may need a few coats. So again, we're not gonna just go like this, okay? We wanna do strokes that are evenly going across, okay? So this might need a few coats, which is okay. And then as you get comfortable, you might be able to go a little faster, but you can see here the idea is even across. So if you see that you're not getting so even in certain spots, you can go back over them, but we want it to be soft. So that was horizontal. So now I'm gonna go vertical so I can get these edges that I missed. I'm using heavy pressure. That's how we get our darkest values. And then to get to this one, all right, let's see how I can do this. I'm gonna come around from the other side. So normally you would be turning your paper around to do this. I don't wanna move it because I'm showing you I have my camera set up. So I'm just gonna go on this side and go horizontally again. And then I'm just gonna get that bottom portion. It looks like I missed a little drop of it. So the idea here is to get it to be even and solid, one solid value. So now we have two values. We have white and we have very dark. So now for box 2 is medium. So to do medium, it's the same idea, overhand grip, and you're just gonna go across with light pressure. See the difference here? We want it to just be a medium and smooth, even strokes all the way across. Don't go like this, right? We want smooth, even strokes going completely across. So I got a little darker down there. So now I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with this. So we don't want to make it too dark. We want to have a nice medium range. So we have a good range of value. Then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go vertically to get those edges. But now that I went vertically there, I'm just going to very lightly go across. Okay, and now I have my 3 values for my first value scale. And then I'm going to use my eraser. I'm going to clean whatever edges I need to clean. Because again, even though this is practice, we want to make sure that we are being as neat as possible. All right, so next. So you're going to start to see a connection here. So this medium box should match that medium box. This dark box is going to match that dark. And this light, the whitest, is going to match that one. So here. So now we're doing the same thing that we did above, and then we'll do number 2 and 4 after. So these are a little smaller. So let's start box 5, going completely across to the best of our ability. We want it to be smooth. We don't want to see those lines. Remember, with the point of the pencil from demo 1, we don't want to see lines. And then I can show you an example of how it should not look. So here, I got a little out. That's okay. I can fix it. So it's okay if it's not fully dark yet. You do need a few coats. So right there, that's 2 coats. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more because now we have more range to do. So we want to make sure we get this as dark as we can. And then I can go ahead and just erase. You can erase as you go along and fix the edges. Okay, so we have our darkest box. Now our medium box should look like that one up there. Number 2 there is the same, so medium. So I'm going to use light pressure to build it to make it match. Again, even strokes, whether it's horizontally or vertically, they should go completely across. Okay, so you can see here I still have 3 values, light, medium, and dark. And now from here, so to start shading box 2, we want to try to make it in between white and this gray medium. So here I'm going to use less pressure. It's almost like a whisper of pressure, like your pencil is barely touching. It's going to be very, very light. We want to see a difference from white to a little light gray, medium gray, and now here between 3 and 5, this is where usually what I like to do is I like to start it matching box 3, make it go across so it matches, and now this is where we can step it up, do our second coat, and it's going to get slightly darker. So it should not match 3 at the end. It should be slightly, it's gradually, right? This is gradation. We're gradually jumping from white to black, or as black as we can get it. So this is gonna help your art by having these ranges of values. When you guys start shading, you're gonna have more choices here in your actual artwork to make things look three-dimensional and give it volume. So I'm looking here, and this is at this point, the more you have, the more boxes, you have to start adjusting it to make sure that they actually do look like they're changing, right? So here, that looks darker than, this is darker than this one's darker than this one is darker than this one, and this one is darker than that one. And then here I'm looking at it. I think I may try one more time going back to make this dark one extra dark. So you're gonna notice the darker you get, if the pencil starts to be really shiny on the paper. So I'm going horizontally, and then I'm gonna go back. So I'm alternating horizontal and vertical here. So now you can see that that's really dark. Now looking at that, I kind of want to make my third one a little darker up here. So as you're doing it, it's a constant adjustment. But you always want to start a little lighter, because in art, you can always make things darker, but once you make them really dark, it's very hard to lighten it. Because then when you start erasing, it's hard to erase. So we always want to build, so it's okay to go back. So now we see we really have a nice range from white to black. And then finally, for this last one, so here, medium. So this box 4 is going to be the medium one. Box 7 is going to be the darkest, and box 1 stays white. So we can see how the values are alternating. So again, let's start with our darkest one. So now that we've got really dark up there, now we have a sense of, you guys can start adding way more pressure. So here I go, I'm adding a lot of pressure, using my finger muscles, trying to be relaxed. I'm doing my best here. It's okay. Let me just do a little vertical here, and then I'll just erase the edges to make it neater. Because the idea is to be solid. We don't want lines. Okay, we're using the side of the pencil. Make it really even. So if you're starting to see strokes, you need to go back over with pressure and get rid of those strokes. Right? We don't want to be filling it with the point. So if you're shading it in and it's looking like this, that is not the way, that's the point. We're using the side. So here I'm just gonna go ahead and erase my little edge. Okay. So now from there, my medium. So this is where it gets tricky, because now we're making more jumps. So that means more value. So I'm gonna go to box 4, which is the medium one, and I'm gonna try to make it match the medium one on the one above it. Okay, so again, I'm going horizontally, and then I'll do a little vertical as well. So you guys, it might feel awkward at first doing this, holding the pencil like this. So you see how I'm kind of like moving my hand around. You start to get your own feel for it, like this overhand grip, depending on where you feel comfortable. All right, so we have our medium and we have our white. So I'm gonna start by building again, box 2, I'm gonna go here. This is gonna be even lighter than the first one. You're barely gonna see anything here, okay? Very barely, very minimal. One little, very light pressure, like a whisper of like it's just the pencil's just like just gently, gently. So now to create the value for box 3, we're gonna make it match box 2 first. That way we see that we have a starting point. And then we're just gonna add one slight layer. So we want it to be lighter than box 4, which is the medium, but darker than box 2, which is the light gray, light value. Okay? So if they start to look alike, you might have to adjust. So if it gets a little too dark, you can just gently see how I'm not fully erasing. I'm just taking my eraser and gently softening it a little bit. Okay? So that way you have a transition. So it's okay, but remember, you can always make things darker, but it's really hard to make them lighter. So now we're gonna work on between the medium, box 4, and we're gonna build to box 5. So again, just make box 5 look like box 4. So the idea here is that now we're gonna be starting to make our darker mediums. All right, so I have that there. And then I have one coat that matches. Now I'm gonna press a little more firm, a little more pressure. You can see I'm holding the pencil kind of behind, but I'm still using the overhand grip, the side of the pencil. Okay, so we can see that that is darker than that. 5 is darker than 4, 4 is darker than 3, 3 is darker than 2, and 2 is faintly darker than the white of the paper. And then finally for 6, we're gonna make it look like 5. And then I'm just gonna, now I'm gonna start applying more pressure. I don't want it to be as, now I'm gonna go, remember, across, fully, okay, horizontal, vertically, not using the point at all. So now I have even more of a jump. So now I'm looking and I feel like box 7 is not as dark as that box 5. So I'm just gonna go in here because we need more contrast. 6 is kind of matching it at this point. I'm just gonna go ahead and darken this as necessary. Remember, it should be a gradual jump. It's gradation, it's gradual. So now you can see, and I'm gonna go horizontally, vertically, horizontally, completely across, and now you can see that it's significantly darker, richer, purer. So we have, this activity, we made a range of values. Part 1, you're doing 3 values from white to black. Part 2, you're doing 5 values from white to black, and part 3, you're using 7 values from white to black. And this is gonna help you when you start drawing realistically or you start adding shadows and highlights to your art. You're gonna have a nice range of values. You're gonna save this. You can look back at it. This is gonna be a reference guide for you to look back at and line up your drawings. You can, put your art next to it and see, do I have a range of values? All of your art should at least, moving forward, have 3 values. As you get better, you'll be able to make 5 values. And then if you get really good at this, you can make 7. And then if you guys wanna practice making more, 10, 15, 20, go for it. All right, so that's it for our tutorial, value scales using gradation. I hope you enjoyed it. The next tutorial that we're gonna do is gonna be value scales using line. So I look forward to that. Have a great day, everyone.